How is everyone today? Welcome to my weekly Wednesday chat. I actually have a glass of water fairly close by so that if my throat gets scratchy, I can go grab it. And I'm super excited to be here because I think we all need to come together to stay positive and to talk about art and creativity and how that helps us always stay positive, fill our life with joy, and move forward together. Let me grab my water. Okay, I have my water. So you guys know I am Anne La Follette, and I am an online entrepreneur, a creative entrepreneur. And I had to completely reinvent myself in my late 50s when I got laid off from my job. And things happen in the world that we don't expect, or that disappoint us, or that we get a little shocked by. And certainly when I got laid off, it was a big shock. And I think that's a topic that many people can relate to, whether it's a job loss or whether or not it's an election or whether it's something else that's happening in your life that has a really big impact. And so when I woke up this morning, hello, Shelly, I see your comment, and I'm so glad you're here so we can actually stay positive together and support everybody else in the group who wants to talk about art and creativity and how incredibly transformative it is in helping us get up every day and kind of get out of the bed on the right side of the bed. You know what I mean? And so for anyone else who's here, you can feel free to jump into the comments. I think that it's very, very important. And for me personally, this morning when I woke up, I didn't actually stay up very late last night because I could tell what was going to happen. And so I basically went back and read my Audible book, which I listened to my audio book, which I love to do when I'm trying to fall asleep. I also have a wonderful app on my phone that is called Headspace. And if you've never tried it out, they have a free trial. I'm not an affiliate or anything, but it's called Headspace. And it's just a really great, I've never really been a meditator. But the app has so much more than just meditation practices for you to try. It has, there's a podcast. There's also just music that you can listen to. There's also some meditations that they do kind of through a storytelling through line, which is kind of fascinating and certainly helps me fall asleep better at night. And so, I wanted to share a little bit about the blog that I wrote yesterday because, of course, I love to feature my students. And I love also to make sure that I'm telling you about what my students are achieving and how they're achieving it so that you feel like you can absolutely achieve this level of success as well. And success is, of course, very relative, which is a really important concept for everybody to kind of think about for a minute, because my success doesn't mean anything if you don't want it, right? Or another way to say that, and that I like to talk to my students about, is it's super important for you to decide what's important to you and what are all of the wonderful things you have going on in your life that you don't want to compromise in any way. But how can you make sure that you are kind of taking your art seriously and that you're carving out enough time so that you can continue to create beautiful art? And you can also then decide, well, what level of business do I want to have in my art? Do you want to keep it as a hobby? Do you want to turn it into a business, a small business, a larger business? And it's so important to stay centered on what is going to bring you the most joy and what aligns with your values. Your values around your family, your values around your children, your values around how you want to spend your time, your values around your partner and your neighbors and the people you like to spend time with, your love of cooking, if that's something that you really enjoy doing, or gardening, or other kind of creative outlets. And you don't want to compromise those when you don't want to compromise those. You just want to figure out how to carve out enough time for the creativity that you love the most so that it helps fill you up every day and every week and helps you continue to move forward when things kind of in the external world that you really don't have any control over can kind of feel like they're throwing you for a bit of a loop. So dream, take action, create, and inspire. I love that. This is beautiful. And hello, Maria. It's wonderful to see you as well. Exactly. We're all here in this creative space. And Linda said it too. Yes, let's create. And I wanted to share some beautiful work that one of my students in my Mastermind program is doing, and how she is starting to think about evolving her business. And her name is Janette Hild. And if you got my email yesterday, if you're on my email list, you got an email from me yesterday morning, and it featured her. And so I'm going to go and share. I'm going to share my screen for just a second, and we're going to pop over to my website, which is annelafolletteart.com. And every week I write a blog. So the blog, when you get my email, it takes you immediately into this section of my website so that you can see the various blogs that I write, because I write one every single Tuesday. And pretty much come rain or shine. And here is the beautiful Janette Hild, and this particular blog is all about textiles, teaching, and Janet's next chapter. So if you haven't read it yet, please pop over to my website and navigate here, or go into your emails. Make sure you check spam. Find the email for me that was short and sweet and just gave you a couple of little teasers about this blog post. And of course, you can read the whole thing about Janette right here. And I'm going to talk to you about this now because it's really important. You're going to notice here, this is a beautiful picture of her, and it's going to tell you how you can join her newsletter for design tutorials, color palettes, pattern development, inspiration, and she also writes a blog, and she's sitting at her creative table doing some really, really beautiful watercolor work. So let's talk about Janette for a minute. And she couldn't join me because she's working right now, but I'll have her on one of the subsequent Wednesdays so that you can meet her in person or in this format and have a chance to ask her some questions. But she actually was quite shy as a child, but really enjoyed nature and kind of felt like she could come into her own in nature, and initially thought that she was going to pursue either geology or biology or one of the sciences when she went to college. And when I was talking to her on Monday, she said, you know, what happened was I realized that I had to take calculus. And while she's very technically savvy, she didn't like the math part, and definitely didn't feel like she was going to be set up for success to take calculus. And so she took a deep breath, and like many of us do when we're in college, she pivoted and she moved into the art department, and she got a degree in jewelry design. And when she was telling me this story, I thought it was so important for us to share it with each other about how many times in your life have you taken a little bit of a left turn or a right turn, or you've just decided that what you had been doing is not as interesting to you anymore, and so you switch jobs because you want to try something different. Or like me, you didn't have any choice because you lost your job, you got laid off, and then you decide, okay, well, how am I going to recreate myself for this next chapter of my life? So tell me in the comments if you if you changed your major in college several times, or if when you were thinking about what you wanted to do artistically, if you've played with many different media, right? So Maria, I know Maria Alzanier, who's here, she's a watercolor artist. But Maria, you probably played with other media in the past, and the approach you have to watercolor also uses other types of techniques, right? I've seen you, for example, do watercolor not using a brush, but using like a branch or a twig. So let me know in the comments if you have switched gears at some point in time, whether professionally or whether or not it was actually with your artistic practice, because I think we all do from time to time. And in fact, in one of my previous blog posts, one of the things that people ask me about a lot is, I'm feeling stuck. How do I kind of get re-engaged in my creativity? And one really great way to do that is for you to kind of switch into a different medium. So if you love to do surface pattern designs on your Procreate app on your iPad, then maybe what you want to do is you want to get your physical colored pencils out and do a little bit of sketching with your physical colored pencils in your notebook, so that you're just making your brain do something a little bit different, and then that kind of recharges your creative batteries, and then you can go back to the discipline that you enjoy the most. So the other thing that's great about Janet's story, back to Janet, is that she then started to work in the interior design world. And she realized that she absolutely loved textiles. And the fact that when you're building textile designs, or designs for textiles specifically, for that type of surface, it is very technical, and that's mostly geometric. It's lines and dots and squares and things that are going to look really good on upholstery. Of course, there are many floral applications as well, but in the niche that she was in, it was very sort of geometric focused. And she has sort of her own level of right brain, left brain skill set, where she loves the technical part, but also obviously loves the creative part. And that allowed her to discover surface pattern design specifically, which is this huge industry no one's ever heard of. And when you look around yourself, you realize it's on almost there is a beautiful pattern or design on almost every surface around you, whether it's your carpet, or it's the clothes you're wearing, or it's your duvet cover, or it's your tea towels, or it's the notebook that you're taking your notes in. So long story short, she was in that interior design space until the recession in 2008. And I think it's really good for us to periodically remember, there are these bumps in the road that happen, and we recover from them, right? We do recover from them. Now, 2008 may feel like a really long time ago, but we all went through it, right? We all went through it, and we all managed to come through it. And that whatever we're doing now might be very different from what we were doing then. She was also starting to have kids, and so was spending a lot more time taking care of her kids and being at home, and switching gears really into more freelance type work. So before I continue with her story, I see a couple of your comments, and so let me make sure I bring them up. So Maria said, I love to experiment with lots of different mediums. It feels like that makes my art more interesting, especially for myself. Yeah, and that is so important, Maria. Thank you for sharing that with everyone, because part of the reason we do art is because it brings us fulfillment. It brings us joy. It gets us out of a funk, or it might get us out of a bad mood, or it might get us out of, an argument that we had, and it gets us back into the sort of where we want to be mentally, and thinking about positive things instead of negative things. And so I love the fact that you highlighted that it's so important that we recognize the fact we're doing art because we love what we're creating, right? And usually other people love it too, which is such an incredible benefit. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Janet and Janet's journey. And so when Janet was at home, she has a son, and then she also has twins. And so she was obviously had her hands full at home, but she was doing some freelance work. She also got a licensing deal, and that licensing deal was in the textile industry, and there were over 30 different designs that were selling, and she was getting royalties or licensing fees from them. And she told me she got this licensing deal in like 2010, and it's still paying her a little bit of money because some of them have been discontinued, but there's still certain colors that are still for sale. And so it's amazing. Fantastic. So hello, Janette. It's great to see you. So then basically, as her kids started to get older, she definitely realized that she wanted to actually get back into more serious surface design work, and she had the opportunity to actually start teaching at a college in New York. And she realized, and this may have happened to you, it certainly happened to me, I never thought I would get into teaching myself. Right? When I first started to reinvent myself, I was all about the art I was making. And then I realized that my approach to making surface designs using Adobe Illustrator specifically was something that no one else was teaching. They weren't teaching it my way. There are many other people who teach Illustrator, but they weren't teaching surface design my way and for my audience and for people who want to sort of learn my approach, which is a very specialized approach for people who are like me. at my stage of life who are looking for the same type of enjoyment and joy in the pursuit, and who also want to understand, okay, how do you apply the incredible knowledge you've acquired over your lifetime from a business perspective into your creative outlet? And what are the benefits of doing that so that you can understand what are the different types of businesses you could grow with your art practice? And so the great thing about Janette was she started to teach, and she was teaching at the master's level because she actually got her master's as well, and she fell in love with teaching. And so she came into my mastermind at the beginning of this year. You know, I have a mastermind program, and I opened it up at the end of last year, and I have 16 beautiful women who are in it, and we're in the renewal period right now. And so some will stay and some will leave, and there'll probably be a couple spots available. And I've been talking quite a bit about it, so I'm not going to talk about it today. But she came into my mastermind, and I think it's important to understand, like, well, why would somebody like Janette come into a mastermind program? And so the reason that she came into the mastermind program, and she actually gave me a couple of quotes that I can share, is she loves textile design because textile design is super technical, but it's also very creative. And she said it's the perfect blend of these two ways of thinking that she has. But she wanted to be challenged within a group of people who would help her realize, okay, well, how can she create a business around it? What type of business might she want to have? And in a mastermind, everyone is doing something a little bit different. They're all doing something creative, but everyone is deciding for themselves what type of business they either want to grow or what type of business they want to build. And so one of the things she recognized from her teaching was that she loves to create these activities for students, and she got incredibly positive feedback from the students in her programs. And now, of course, in the digital age, she realized that she can share those amazing activities with a much broader audience because we have the ability to talk to the world through our computers, right? And so when she had all of these different ideas kind of rolling around in her head and she needed people to bounce them off of, she joined my mastermind. And she said the mastermind is such an amazing way to connect with people who are on a similar journey but pursuing something completely different. And it's so important that everybody's not doing the same thing because it opens up your mind to other possibilities and other things you might not think about. And so she also said the other people there are really inspiring because they're on these different paths, but you can kind of see little threads that connect what it is that Janette is doing with what it is that the other people in the mastermind are doing. And so that helps her both gain confidence, and it helps her see and focus in on her unique blend of creativity and technology. And so she loves to try to understand and hear more about how do you work through things, right? How do you work through, like, what is my zone of genius? And then how can I monetize that zone of genius? And Janette now has a much clearer idea about how she wants to share this unique approach that she has to her creativity, and she's got a program that she's thinking about launching, and I cannot wait to hear more about it when we launch the mastermind again in January. And so it's incredible, right? It's just really, really incredible. And she also had some really great advice about, there's no magic bullet. You have to enjoy the process of discovery and of trying different things and of making sure that you're actually in the room with other people who can ask you questions, who can push your thinking, who can help you move forward and help you really take the action that allows you to make progress more quickly. So I just thought she was so incredibly inspiring, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about her, and then I also wanted to make sure you guys know, keep coming on Wednesdays. I'll have a blog again next week, and Janette said she'll be able to join me at some point on one of these Wednesdays, and so I'll make sure that you all know when she's going to be able to join me live. All right. I love learning new things all the time. It brings joy and excitement. I love painting, drafting, and designing. Surface pattern is something new I am exploring now, and it's so fun. And I think that it keeps it really keeps us alive. It keeps us alive. It keeps us younger. It keeps our brain working. And so I'm with you. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to learn new things, and then I also like to get better and better at the things that I truly have a passion for. Okay, and it's true, there's no magic bullet. There's no magic bullet. So, I hope that you have enjoyed being here with me today and that I've brought a little bit of joy into your life today, no matter what time it is in your time zone. It is 12:30 here, almost 12:30 here, and so I'm going to drink the rest of my water for my scratchy throat, and then I'm going to it's a beautiful, beautiful day. And I opened the door to our backyard. There's a little bit of a breeze coming through the house. It's absolutely a gorgeous, gorgeous day, and so I'm very grateful for the life that I lead and for being able to join you and talk to you every Wednesday to make sure that you're doing okay and you know that this is a creative community that welcomes everyone and that we have a chance to chat every Wednesday. And you also get to learn a little bit about the other fabulous women in my community by reading my blog. So have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and good night in Sweden, because I know Maria in Sweden, it's actually quite late there. And I always like to say in closing that I am Anne La Follette, and it's never too late to create. Bye for now, and I'll see you next week.